Hello, I'm Pastor Gordon Walsh. I'm pastor of New Heritage Church, and we're located at the track every Sunday. Now today we're going to do our excerpt from this past Sunday's service, and we're going to be talking about Matthew, and we're going to be going through the book of the Gospel of Matthew. Now, I'm at my friend's house again. We're going to be chopping down a tree, so we'll be using that. We got Albert, so you're going to see him again today. But this past Sunday, we covered chapters 1 and 2 in Matthew. Now, right now, we're going to look at chapter 1, verses 1 through 17. But there's a few things that we need to know about Matthew before we get started. Matthew is the most detailed in the order of his genealogy in Christ's life. And when you're looking at that, you might wonder why, because we look at Luke as being a doctor. But we got to realize the education of Luke back then was not the same as it was today. Really, modern medicines, we know that today didn't really get started until 1700s, and the real extreme education where we're looking at the educated people being this. Back then, being a doctor was a little bit different. I'm not discounting Luke's intelligence or anything, but Matthew was a money counter, and he had to be educated in order to be a money counter, because not only was he counting money for the local population, he was counting for the Romans. He wanted to make sure that they wanted to make sure he was collecting the right amount of money. But the other thing, which is very significant when we're reading the Gospels, is it is from Matthew's perspective. This Gospel is how Matthew's seen the story. And this is also a way that we can tell that it's the truth, and it's not fabricated with a bunch of people getting together. So Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John did not get together and say, hey, we're going to write the Gospels, and we're going to write about Jesus Christ, and everything starts looking the same. Because just think about it, you're at a football game, you and your buddy are sitting right next to each other. You get a text from your wife or a friend or something, and you're in the middle of the texting, right? And all of a sudden you hear some screaming going on, and you're like, oh man, I want to finish, I got to look at the game, and you're looking up, and you look up and you see Marshawn Lynch running in for a touchdown. And you're like, oh yeah, winning touchdown, we just won the game, yay, you give your buddies high five and everything, and you go afterwards and you celebrate, you're at the having lunch or having dinner or something that night, and you're talking with some friends that didn't see the game, and you're telling them, oh yeah, right at the last moment, man, Marshawn Lynch gets a handoff and he's running down the field and he scores a touchdown. It was awesome game. And then you get up and you go to the bathroom, and then they're asking your friend, hey, did you enjoy the game? He goes, oh man, it was the best game ever. I saw the best run of my life. Okay, the quarterback goes back and he's going to throw a pass, and number 92 on the defensive end rushes in and hits the ball out of his hand. We thought, oh, we've lost this game, right? And the ball pops out and lands right in Marshawn Lynch's hands. I mean, it is like he even paused for a moment and stares at the ball like, really, this just happened? And he takes off running, and 3 defensive linemen come after him, and he plows through one of them like the dude weighs 120 pounds as opposed to 300 pounds. And he breaks off and he starts running to the left, and he's running over to the left, and all of a sudden everybody starts to merge on him, and he just breaks out and just runs all the way back across the field to the far right side of the field, and he's got 2 people over there. He already outran everybody else. He breaks a tackle from the corner. He's got 1 guy to beat. The guy dives at him, and Marshawn Lynch just hurdles over the top of him, runs in for a touchdown. It was amazing. Well, if you read this story later on and you read the 2, you're going to think they weren't at the same game. What's going on here? I mean, was this a different game? Well, the reality of it is when you're sitting in a situation, your perspective of the event itself is different. Because things are going to stand out to you that you find more important to you than the other person does. And they're going to write about other things that was more important to them, or you're going to see something that they didn't see. That's how you tell that it's not or that it is accurate. Just like Teresa the other day, she was correcting some papers, and they were writing a story, and she's got about 70 students throughout the day. And there was these 2 kids in there, and it was about a soccer player. And there was 2 kids in there, and it was verbatim. One kid copied off the other kid. It was verbatim what they were talking about. So we knew, or she knew, that, hey, these kids copied. They looked at this paper. It said that the soccer player went down, he does this for fun, blah, blah, blah. He scores a goal, whatever it was. Where all other of the kids in the class, all the stories, or at least all the ones, I didn't know if there's anybody else that cheated, but everybody else had a different perspective. Some people talked about he was on a soccer team. Some people talked about he was just at the park playing soccer. Someone talked about the photographer wasn't very good because he was out of focus. So it's the perspective that we have and what we find important and intriguing about the story is on how we write it. So when we look at the Gospels and when we have people come up to us and say, well, if they were really the same, then the stories would be the same. Well, no, then that's not true. Because of the stories aren't exactly the same, what makes them more accurate and more true. So don't let people tell you that. Now we're going to be talking about chapter 1, verses 1 through 17 on genealogy of Christ.
Hallelujah, holy, holy, God Almighty, great I am, who is worthy, none beside thee, God Almighty, great I am. I wanna be near to your heart, loving the world.
So here's the trees that we fell that me and Albert was working on. So anyways, but we're going to be talking a little bit about here on these trees is a genealogy. And we can just use this old one. You can see it relatively well as opposed to the ones that we just cut. But when you look into the trees, now I'm no tree expert, but when you do look into the trees, you can see the lines in the trees, and that one gives the age. But anyways, they're able to study this and find out, throughout history, things that have occurred during history. Was the tree ever set on fire? Erosion, disease, history. But it gives an accurate history and background of this particular tree. Well, that's what Matthew did when he was talking about the genealogy of Christ. He gave an accurate history of who Christ is and where his lineage came from. And that's a historical record that we know who he is and where he came from. And then that also fulfills the prophecies that are in the Old Testament about him. All right, you just saw the portion where we got to cut down the tree over at Albert's house. That was a lot of fun, and we used the tree as the genealogy of Jesus Christ. Now we're going to be moving into Matthew and the rest of the chapter in chapter 1, and we're going to be talking about the birth of Christ. But when we look at this, we're going to do the prophecies that were in the Old Testament about the birth of Jesus Christ. So you're going to turn with me to Psalms 132, verse 11. The Lord has sworn in truth to David. He will not turn from it. I will set upon your throne the fruit of your body. So here he's promising David that Jesus will be his descendant. And he's promising David that. So God keeps his truth and keeps his promise. Now we're going to move to Isaiah 7:14. And let's read from there. Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. And Emmanuel means God with us. Now we're going to look at chapter 2, verses 1 through 12, but we're going to specifically talk right now on verses 1 through 4, how the wise men from the east see the star over Bethlehem where Jesus was born. And they go there and want to find, where is this king? And King Herod becomes very jealous. And King Herod has always been someone that coveted his kingdom, his throne. He didn't trust people around him. I mean, he had one of his wives executed. He had 3 of his sons executed. So he had no problem issuing the order to kill all the children 2 years and younger. So King Herod was a ruthless person, and he did not want someone to take over his kingdom, and he took this as a serious threat. Matthew recorded over 63, or at least 63 prophecies from the Old Testament, and I believe somewhere around 40 direct translations from the Old Testament. But we're going to be reading one of the prophecies that Matthew talks about. We're going to look at Hosea 11:1. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. Let's turn back to Matthew chapter 2, verse 15. All right, and this is where Joseph and his family stayed in Egypt until the death of Herod. So we're going to look at here Verse 15, and was there until the death of Herod, that is, might be fulfilled, which was spoken by the Lord through the prophet, saying, out of Egypt I called my son. So this is one of the other prophecies that Matthew directly quotes from the Old Testament. I mean, if we look at Jesus and just take a handful of miracles that Jesus fulfilled that was prophesied in the Old Testament, I don't know, let's just say around 20. There would not be enough zeros to put on this screen. It would be 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 until the whatever power. But yet there's over 300 prophecies of Jesus in the Old Testament, and they were all fulfilled by him, 100%. Now there are some other prophecies out there that are, I think they might be stretching a little bit. But if we know that there's over 300 that we can directly translate to Jesus without a doubt. Now we're going to be reading from Matthew chapter 2, verse 23. And he came and dwelt in a city called Nazareth, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophets. He shall be called a Nazarene. We're going to continue on with the book of Matthew. And we just hope that you guys are here to continue on with this lesson, learning more about the Gospel of Matthew and how it applies today in your life. Knowing the first 2 chapters should give you confidence that Jesus is the Messiah that was sent. He is the one way to heaven. And we ask that you continue on with this series to learn more about Christ and how he plays in your life. Alright, look, I was trying to be excited. I don't know what it is today, but if you enjoyed this sermon and you grueled through it or whatever the case may be, hey, come and join us on Sunday. We're at the track every Sunday at 10 o'clock. We'd love to see you there. You can also find us on our Facebook page at Heritage TC. Like us, share it with your friends. Get more people coming and watching what Christ has to say. You can follow or go to our webpage at heritagetc.org. And I hope you can hear this train in the background. I'm having all kinds of issues. They got spiders over here again. You guys should have been to the Facebook page and seen all these big spiders. Anyways, we'll show it to you. Also, you can call me, 509-628-2274. Let's check out this spider. Peace out.
Those are like the spiders that were in my